Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now, our weekly pulse check on AI and automation news. I'm your host, Michael Marchuk,
And I'm Brad Hairston.
and we're so happy that you're here. We've got some very meaty stories to jump into today. So we only got three, Brad. And we'll start off with the first one from Thomson Reuters. And this is one that we've kind of hinted at in a number of different episodes of our podcast relating to intellectual property. So the article reads, Thomson Reuters wins AI copyright fair use ruling against one-time competitor. And as we've talked about before, this whole idea of copyright fair use has been an issue in terms of training models and whatnot. This article obviously could be slightly biased because the article is on Thomson Reuters news site, but it does give some real good insight. So can you cover off what happened in this article?
You think there's bias in the
No
media?
bias at all. There's no bias, especially when it's talking about themselves winning a legal battle. So
Right, exactly. So fair use is the principle that allows the unauthorized use of copyright protected works under certain circumstances. So it's something that has emerged in relation to all these large language models that are going out and using copyrighted content to train their models, and in many cases without permission. So this may be the first ruling on the fair use, and that's what makes it so significant. It's the first time that a federal judge in the U.S. has issued a ruling, his interpretation of fair use. And in this case, he ruled in favor of Thomson Reuters, who was suing a former competitor of using copyrighted information from Thomson Reuters to build their own AI model, which essentially was going to be a competitive product. So the judge in this case, actually like a week ago, said that he thought this ought to go to trial. It ought to be something that's, taken to a jury with evidence presented and so forth. For some reason, he totally changed his mind, and he came out and he just ruled in favor of Thomson Reuters. So a lot of interesting fallout from this. You've got existing suits that are very similar, that are ongoing against OpenAI, against Meta, against Microsoft. So how is this going to impact them? Is this going to be a case that becomes precedent in those situations? Now, Thomson Reuters is probably slightly smaller than OpenAI, Microsoft, and Meta. But at the same time, it's one of the only cases, or possibly the only case, that's happened so far. So it's really interesting. I think the biggest question of all, Michael, that comes out of this is, how do you determine if the use of copyrighted material is permissible? I mean, this one involved a GenAI model that was clearly going to be competitive. Perhaps that's what drove the judge to make this ruling. But it's very subjective, and so I suppose whether it's up to a judge or it's up to a trial. A trial by a jury, they're going to have to make a decision on whether similar situations, who's going to win the suit, who's going to go in, who it's going to go in favor of, because at the end of the day, it is fairly subjective, and we only have one case now to use as precedent, which is not a lot.
Right. I think it was interesting to, as you mentioned, go to a summary judgment. So they didn't get a jury involved to hear the facts of the case and to do that, which is something that I think that would be probably difficult for the average person to sort through, because the idea of intellectual property and the dispute over fair use, because even a judge is having trouble identifying this stuff. I think it'd be very, very difficult for the average person to be doing something similar and understanding what fair use is compared to something else. And because the area is so gray, you're right. This is one suit and one specific judgment, but it does show a precedent now. And understanding that, I don't know if this is going to be appealed or if what's going to happen from there, but these are the kind of things that we have to keep on watching on, because there's a lot of data out there that's been
Yeah.
used, likely without permission to create these models. So
Yeah.
again, something to watch as we go forward.
And there's one quote from the judge that I forgot to mention that I thought was really good, that kind of defines, really what's at stake here. He says, "Is it in the public benefit to allow AI to be trained with copyright material?" So in this case, I guess he determined no, it wasn't in the public benefit for this competitor to use content from Thomson Reuters. But in other situations, he or a jury might decide it is. It is of benefit to OpenAI, for example, to ingest every book written in the last 20 years and use that, to train their models. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how this gets used in other cases of a similar nature.
Yeah, I mean, and I always thought in my back of my mind, okay, if a professor at a college had read books over their lifetime and had leveraged some of that knowledge then to create a course or content that they are now training to students, is that fair use? Where does this end in terms of how you identify what is fair use and what is not fair use? Because guarantee between you and I, we've consumed a lot of content, and some of it has definitely shaped our thoughts and how we approach our jobs and how we approach issues of questions. So it's going to be interesting to see. It gets a much broader question about how do we use information and how do we handle it. But again, very interesting concept. So as we continue on our wild week we had this week, Elon Musk decided he wanted to go and make a bid for OpenAI. So this is from the New York Times. The article is, Elon Musk leads a $97.4 billion bid to control OpenAI. Now, we've seen a lot of Elon Musk this week, specifically in a couple different contexts. What are your takes on the way this particular article lays it out?
Well, do you get the impression that Elon and Sam are not the best of buddies anymore?
I suspect that there's a little feud going on there.
Yeah, this is a fascinating development. So Elon is leading a group of investors, including his own AI company. They're part of it, in a $97.4 billion to take over the nonprofit assets of OpenAI. And it's important to specify that because if you remember, OpenAI was established 10 years ago with Elon as a key investor, and it was established as a nonprofit. Then Sam decided to take things in a for-profit direction. Well, there's still 2 nonprofit board members committed to the original vision, and Sam Altman has been trying to edge these guys out or give them a payout or something. But they're nonprofit, so they are required to take bids seriously and basically accept the fair market value. So it's going to be hard for them to turn down $97.4 billion because unless someone comes forward with a bigger number, because they're essentially a charity. They have to look at it as fair market value. And you've got to believe Elon knows this is the weakness. I mean, he's going after this in this specific way, based on his knowledge of the company and possibly his distrust of Sam Altman. But I love Sam's request. He tweeted, "No, thank you, but we will buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you like." So this is a crazy scenario. I mean, no doubt it's going to complicate OpenAI's ongoing attempt to raise $40 billion, which they've been doing for a while. And there are so many pieces of this puzzle that it's impossible to keep it figured out. I mean, you've got Elon, meantime, is working for the government, trying to drive out inefficiencies. Then you have Sam Altman announcing with the government that he's going to build the largest data center in the world. And then you've got SoftBank there. Well, they're trying to contribute part of that $40 billion that OpenAI is seeking. And then this article is in the New York Times, who is suing OpenAI for copyright infringement. So I need like a flow chart or something to
It would be a very tangled mess if you tried to
yeah,
characters in this one.
yeah, I'm struggling to keep it all put together. One of our former colleagues used to use that brain map or whatever it was called. Yeah, and that was an interesting tool that allowed you to connect all these different moving pieces and make sense of them. I miss that. I think I need that to keep my brain sorted out on this one. But
I would guess that it probably would look like a giant tangled knot, given the fact that we've got so many interconnected players in this particular space.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me too is the massive volume of valuations that are just being thrown around. Oh, it's 40 billion, 100 billion, whatever. Yeah. It's amazing to see these giant numbers being tossed around like this. But it also says something about the value that the marketplaces on both the research and the developments that they've already brought out. So they see this as truly valuable in a very interesting way. So the question I have for you is, this is just an opinion. Do you think that OpenAI should stay as a nonprofit? Because quite honestly, they are still losing a boatload of money. So you could say even as a for-profit company, they're not doing really well at that. Or do you think they should be going for a for-profit model in the long run?
I mean, I think the way that the market has evolved and with all the big tech giants competing with them, I think they've made their decision or their bet that they should be for-profit. And so I expect they will part ways with the nonprofit side of their heritage. I don't know if it's going to happen by virtue of Elon buying them out, or they're just going to write them a check. Maybe this bid will encourage Sam and the rest of the board to buy out those two members. But yeah, I do. I think to me, they're going to have more money. They're going to be more innovative, and they're going to feel the heat of competition, which will drive more innovation if they're in a for-profit model. So that's my vote, or that's my
your interpretation.
My interpretation of where they're headed, and my vote for where they go. We'll see. We'll see what takes place.
Well, I'll give you a reverse view on that, and that would be, let's make the assumption that again, Elon understands OpenAI and their inner workings pretty well. Mm-hmm. So, is it possible that this is a major power play to get Sam to not just raise 40 billion, but to raise the quote unquote market value of 97 point whatever billion, causing OpenAI to have a massive amount of debt, or however they're financing this, to come into it, while he takes his X.AI platform, he being Elon, takes X.AI, which he's also invested a sizable amount into, as a competitor that would put them on more equal footing. So, all of these, as you mentioned, this tangled web we're in, it really makes you think about how these organizations are interconnected and how they are working together or against each other for this broader good, if you will.
Yeah, agreed. That's an interesting perspective. I like it, and very well could be the case. I'm not sure. I think Elon's going to do anything that's not going to make him, a bunch of billion more dollars. I mean, I think he was serious about OpenAI for all, and the original vision, but he bailed, well before they decided to go the for-profit direction, and he certainly is for-profit in everything that he does. So maybe I'm making a harsh judgment on him, but I got to believe he sees a path to untold new money that can come his way as a product.
Well, he seems to have a pretty good track record of building pretty successful large businesses.
He does, yes.
With his little visions going on. So,
yeah.
speaking of this transformation of AI, let's go to our third article from Fast Company. The article is titled Tech's Upcoming, I can say this right, Tech's Upcoming Revolution, GenAI Personalization for All. So we've talked about this concept of generative AI and its amazing capabilities that can be used by even a couple knuckleheads like us, right?
Yeah.
The article goes into a lot more detail. Run us through what you read.
Yeah. So this is very pro technology, cast a very positive view on the big tech players, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, all of them. And it starts off by saying they have transformed from tech giants into innovation enablers by essentially sharing their Gen AI capabilities with businesses worldwide. So, the premise here is they are making AI more accessible than ever, and they're making every company, making it real for them to become an AI company and to embrace it. So the example they give, which I love, and I'm a big fan of Google Notebook LM. They talk about what Spotify did last year. They announced in December this AI enhanced version of what they call Wrapped. And what they essentially do is they produce, if you're a Spotify user, which I am, you can go there and it will create a podcast conversation, two people talking about your musical journey for the year. The songs you listen to, the ones you listen to 40 times, the ones you listen to once and never again. How you listen to different genres. I mean, I can't wait. I haven't listened to mine yet, but it's going to be really bizarre because I listen to so many different things on Spotify, including rainstorm sounds when I need to de-stress. So I don't know what it's going to have to say about that. But I think, this is a great example of, Spotify using Notebook LM to create this capability for their customers, which they're going to enjoy. And it's going to, make them want to continue to be on Spotify, but maybe recommend it to others. And so the article goes on to say, and this is a quote, it says, "The story of AI will shape up to be not about concentration of power, but about the distribution of possibilities." And so Spotify is one example. The article gives a lot of good examples of even small businesses or schools or rural communities, individual developers, how they're taking advantage of all of these Gen AI capabilities that have been made accessible. And it's really neat to see because it's, the way that these companies are partnering with themselves, even the competitors in some cases are Microsoft Azure, partnering with competitors of Microsoft in the AI space. I mean, there are so many different combinations taking place every single day. And you think about end consumers and developers who can go and do things and they don't have to build a supercomputer in their garage, right, to power it. So it's really not, and the article even says this, it's not really about whether to use these technologies, but it's how best to leverage them for the benefit of your customers and your business. And so this democratization topic, you're right, has been one that we've talked about over and over and over again. And I think this article just kind of reinforces that. And it puts a very positive spin on all the ways that the big tech companies are making this stuff digestible and in a lot of cases free to use and to benefit from. And that's creating new possibilities every single day.
Yep, I totally agree. And, you and I have spoken about this a number of times. The idea that technology can be made available to anyone globally if they have access. So it's that hope, we hope that everyone can get access to this. But if they can, the playing field is very level at the start. You need to educate yourself, which I recommend highly for everyone to do. But once you've got that education, you can be quite literally anywhere in the world
Yeah.
with no necessarily formal education on this, but you can learn it yourself and
Hmm.
take your ideas and bring them to life
Yeah.
and leverage generative AI to help even learn about itself. So you can
Right.
have GenAI teach you about how
Mhm.
to leverage GenAI. And
Yeah.
those are some really great ways of taking a technology that is available or can be available to everyone
Yeah.
and make it, using it for good. So when we're able to do that, then we can then, the tide rises
Yeah.
all boats. We're hoping that that'll happen with this kind of technology.
Yeah. To me, I don't know how people decide what they're going to take advantage of or what they're going to leverage, because there's just so many possibilities, and every day there's more and more. I watched a webinar a couple of weeks ago about agentic AI, and the person leading the webinar said that she said, no matter what you do or what your role is or what company you're in, you should take a leave of absence for 3 to 4 weeks and just go learn all these tools and start using them and figuring out which ones you like and don't like, and then come back and pick up, and I guarantee you'll be more productive, more valuable to your company. It will be a competitive advantage for you going forward. Now, I don't know that too many people can take a leave of absence like that.
Right.
But most people call that a permanent leave of absence. But I thought the point she was making, I think, was there should be a sense of urgency for all of us to not just embrace and be knowledgeable of these things, but learn them and kind of be able to sort through the haze, because every day there's something new popping up, and it looks great, and maybe it's something you could use that could help you be more efficient in 10% of what you do each day, maybe not. But I think it's just fascinating, the era that we're in, and how all of this stuff is being made, accessible to us, to individuals, not just to businesses. And if we can learn how to do that and learn quickly and keep learning each and every day, I think it will be very valuable for all of us.
I would agree. And I would also probably challenge folks to say that maybe you don't have to quit your job for 4 weeks and do this, but you probably have some Netflix binge time that you may be able to cut down on and and go through this and learn some things at night, at lunchtime, in those off hours. Unless you're working, 2 full-time jobs and sleeping the rest of the time, it's likely you'll have some time that you can put towards educating yourself about generative AI and its benefits. So
just don't give up on Severance. Keep watching Severance. That's worth every ounce of your attention. But anything else you're watching, put it on hold. Go learn some Gen AI stuff.
All right, with that, we'll close this one up for this week. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. We bring out a new guest every week to bring you some additional insights to the world of automation and AI. And then every other episode is yours truly and Brad here, the two knuckleheads, going over some news from the week to give you some other insights. As always, we will produce the show notes in this particular episode, so you can go look at these articles yourself and read them and gain your own insights. But until next time, stay learning.